Hello, everybody. I'm Joe McGovern, awards reporter here at TheWrap, and we are happy to have you for our 2021-2022 award screening of West Side Story with actress Ariana DeBose, costume designer Paul Tazewell, and re-recording sound mixer Andy Nelson. We're going to show you the trailer for the movie first, and then we'll go right into the conversation with the guests. And to the audience, please take part in the live chat of the stream, share your thoughts about the film, and let us know where you're tuning in from. So now, before our conversation, let's take a look at the trailer for West Side Story.
There's a place for us somewhere, a place for us.
Welcome back. It is my pleasure to welcome Ariana DeBose, Paul Tazewell, and Andy Nelson to this conversation. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you so much for doing this, and congratulations on West Side Story. Congratulations to all three of you on your Oscar nominations. And I want to start there because if you total all your nominations, actually 24 nominations total on this conversation. It's just that Paul really ups the average with a record-setting 22 nominations for the most, I think, in the sound category. I wanted to start with Ariana and with Paul because you've been anybody who lives here in New York, where I do, we've known about you for a while from Broadway. For 10 years for Ariana, for 20, 30 years for Paul. Paul's a Tony winner, Ariana's a Tony nominee. But what did this feel like after the film was done? You waited a whole year to actually have it even be released because of the COVID scheduling problems. And then a few weeks ago to hear your name on that Oscar nomination morning.
Oh, well, I mean, I feel like, our stories are probably a little similar, but I know Paul. If I know Paul, he was jumping up and down. even though he's very quiet and like subdued, I know he was flipping out. I was flipping out. My flip out though was contained a little bit because I was walking along the East River and trying not to scare the other runners. I mean, I wasn't running. I was just walking, but I was trying to be considerate of my fellow New Yorker. And it was lovely.
So great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it's not every day, it's like all of a sudden like, oh, Academy Award nominee, Ariana DeBose. What?
And they can't take that away from you either. That's permanent.
I know, which is both exciting and also terrifying. Like, very cool. It's a very cool thing.
Paul, tell us about your experience. Oh gosh, I was with family, and as Ariana divulged, we were falling all over each other because it was just so exciting. I mean, it was one of those things that I just never imagined would happen ever, really. But the fact that it was for West Side Story that Steven Spielberg directed. I mean, that was just the peak. So I was filled with joy that morning, and still am.
Wonderful. And Andy, what does it mean to you to be leader of the pack, basically? This is, not only you look down the list of the films you've been nominated for, and it's an extraordinary list, but this is your fourth musical, actually.
Yes, and I love that because that's my favorite genre to work in. And for me, it's very exciting because of the team. We have a great team of people, and it varies from film to film, but on this one, we had an exceptionally fantastic team. And I was so proud for everybody when we got that nomination. It meant a tremendous amount.
Wonderful. I wanted to start asking the three of you about the film, maybe starting with Ariana. There is, it's a story we've seen before. We've even seen it in Romeo and Juliet, classic, the Shakespeare play that inspired it. But what I love about this West Side Story is there's a sort of sense of the street, that it's really happening. We're real locations often, a really extraordinary sense that we're really there with these characters. Was that something that appealed to you from sort of I know you had a very great first meeting with Spielberg. Did that aspect of it did you key into that aspect pretty early on?
Well, I can say Stephen was very clear about his vision. He really wanted New York to be a character, like it's a living, breathing character in our film. And I feel like he really empowered not just the actors, but every single department to contribute to the full realization of New York City as a character. And you get that in Andy's sound mix, and you get that in Paul's costume design as well. Every single thing, every single aspect is adding to the heartbeat of our story. And Stephen was always very clear about that. So clarity is key, and it starts top down. And so it was really important, I think, that we have that strong leadership. And he was always very clear about that from day one.
Paul, was that true really for your experience as well with him one-on-one?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would second everything that Ariana was saying. That was, one of the very first requests from Stephen was to have our telling of West Side Story to be, have that grit that was New York City, is New York City really, but was reflective of the New York City of 1957. When the film opens, you see how all of the rubble that is the destruction of that neighborhood, and how the Jets are using this as their playground. I mean, it's shown in the clothing, the wear and tear, and and the dust that has collected on their clothing. So I think that it was really a metaphor for how Tony Kushner, was adapting the screenplay. And I feel like Tony's work, his adaptation of the screenplay, he was going after opening up and really making more rich all of the characters and giving them, like strong backstory. And so we really felt like they were living, breathing characters. And I think that all of us, latched on to that and did the best to, create details that would support that.
I was curious to ask you, Paul, after so many years of designing costumes for Broadway, including Hamilton, if I haven't mentioned, what was the big difference? Because this was, I think, your first really big feature film. Was there one, or were you able to just move your craft over? Just the fact was that cameras were now present instead of an audience.
Yeah. I use the same muscles as a designer to, the insight of character development and how clothing needs to function, what's being asked of it with the choreography and how it fits people and the accuracy of period, the specificity of character. I'm always tapping into that. I mean, I with any production that I design or film that I design, I'm going to the research first and putting together images that can then open up and support the story. So what I would say is the major difference is size, size and scope. The fact that there is, a naturalistic background, that we are in a space that is real, that we are on the streets of New York City for West Side Story, and then we need to people that. And some of those days were 500 plus, all of them dressed in period clothing. And then having the greater ensemble, the primary ensemble, be dressed so that they are reflective of the community that they're in as well. So we don't feel that there's a separation, or that it's not the naturalism that is all of the period clothing that we have on the background. So it's a large task, and larger than what you might have for stage, but it still comes from the same place, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you. Andy, I wanted to point out in the film how beautifully it happens where an actor's speaking voice emerges or goes into their singing voice, even though, this wasn't a film in which every song was recorded live on set. Can you talk about that? Because that actually was a lot of your task on the film, was to make all of that stuff really beautifully seamless. And it really is.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always a big task in musicals, and I have to say, in this film, it was the smoothest of all, and I tell you why. There are many different reasons, but primarily, first of all, the fact that Tony Kushner's screenplay allowed for dialogue scenes to become songs. He made the songs much more part of the scenes, so that there was a way to establish the backgrounds and the feel of the scene during the dialogue section. The pre-record vocals, Todd Maitland, who was the production mixer, who did an incredible job, was able to match voice quality against specific microphones during rehearsals. He went through and thoroughly checked every single mic that would perform the best for each actor's voices. And so that was used to record the pre-record vocals. A selection of 3 different microphones were used. And then obviously the same sort of microphones were used on the set for the dialogue sessions. So the beauty of that was, when it came to the songs, I had the option of choosing any microphone from the pre-record that would match best if we weren't going with a live version, which we did have some live versions of various songs in the film, which are always fantastic, of course. I love that. When I did Les Miserables, it was extraordinary to have all those live vocals constantly. So I was a big supporter of anything that could be recorded live. But where it wasn't, the matching was perfect because of this choice of microphones. So a lot of it was done by pre-selecting and having all this thought ahead. It's a huge undertaking to go into a musical and not plan everything out like that. Some people do go into it without thinking ahead, and you can never catch up afterwards. It's never the same. So a lot of this was down to everybody getting together and putting their heads together and figuring out the best course, and it worked beautifully. So yeah, I was really, really happy with it.
It's great. And I've also heard that there were times where, like during the big dance hall scene, where the actors performed the entire scene without singing, so that the noise of their feet on the ground could be picked up, and you could weave that in. Is that true?
Yes, that was picked up. I mean, Todd would go through a scene again. Ariana knows this well, I'm sure. Todd would go through the scenes again using just what he called a thumper track, which would be just a sub-bass track that could easily be filtered out later to give the rhythm of the music, and record all the feet and movement. And we use that extensively in those scenes. And you can't beat it. You can't post-record that type of sound and make it sound as good as that. So we were very lucky that he had the time, that Stephen gave him the time to capture that for us.
Curious, Ariana, could you discuss your work on the film just from that technical point of view? I mean, the many layers of sound and lenses and production design and of course costume design that went into this, and that you had to, I guess, adjust yourself to.
Well, I definitely think when you step into a role like this, or it's not even just specific to this character, sort of like all on-camera work, in my opinion, but especially with musicals, it is a layer on a layer on a layer. And I feel like I'm not only paying attention to how I'm going to dramatize the text, I'm paying attention to what lens we're in, because it will affect the dance work. That also affects how I utilize Paul's costumes. Can I do exactly what I want to with this skirt? Is there enough space within this shot to do it? Or for that matter, how can I make the shot better? If it's a lift, how do I give more skirt but not, show my underbum? Underbum, is that even a thing? I don't know. But so there's lots of different things that you're calibrating. As far as sound goes, I was heavily reliant on our sound team, because like once I'm mic'd, and I'm sort of just going. But you are very aware of, in regards to putting all three disciplines together, like in the case of America, am I outside? What am I hearing outside that's going to influence how I'm performing? Okay, I'm using this skirt. I can't let the skirt hit my chest because my mic is in my dress and it's going to mess up the sound. So you're doing many, many things at one time. And then sometimes, again, with America, that most of that is not done live because you can't. You're shooting in the streets of New York. So I've got an in-ear, I'm listening to the playback, and I'm dancing, and I realize I look crazy, but I'm having a great time. Or with something like A Boy Like That, I Have a Love, that is completely done for the most part. It's my understanding they used all of our live takes.
Yes, we did.
Thank you, Andy. That makes me feel so good. That is a huge accomplishment as a vocalist. That's a triumph, a win right there. But within the context of that, even again, marrying what is the shot? Where's the light? Where did Janusz put my light? What am I hearing? What can I do? You're balancing the other actors. So this type of work requires you to do many things at one time. And I think it could be very easy to become overwhelmed. But in an environment like this, it was set up for you to succeed. And Andy talked a lot about like forethought and pre-planning. This whole production was pre-planning. So it was honestly, it showed me that, making a musical can really be done in the greatest way possible, in this epic Hollywood way. And it actually doesn't have to feel stressful. Yeah. I mean, it's stressful because movie making is stressful, but like if you could eliminate the stress, it was eliminated, which is great.
Well, speaking of pre-planning, I have to ask about the yellow dress, the skirt that you just mentioned it. And Paul, I mean, people are obsessed, people are recreating it on Etsy. It's going to be around forever, just in a way as the original film's costumes were. Ariana, do you want to say what was the first? When did your eyes first hit that yellow dress? Was it at the fitting?
Oh no! Well, I feel like we met for
we did meet. Yeah,
and he took me through the renderings, and they were very cool because my face had been superimposed onto the design. I was like, this is cool, so I could visualize myself. And I'll tell you, my first question was, will I be able to lift my arms? Yeah. was like, it's perfect. It's amazing. Can I lift my arms? And I really gave him a run for his money on that. But it was all out of love, Paul. Out of love.
I hear it. I hear it. I know. I mean, I think that speaks directly to, I mean, that kind of collaboration where, you know, I was well aware of Ariana as a performer or a technician, actually, you know, a choreographic technician, but, you know, also well in tune with her athleticism as a dancer. And I knew that it was going to be very important to make costumes because all of her costumes were made to order. So we needed to build them so that she could do everything that she was being asked to do and not get in the way of that movement, but still do my best to preserve what the design is. Yeah. And that's that is the great challenge, you know, and all the time supporting who the character is, you know, so it needs to serve all of those things. You know, so we had a good number of fittings. I mean, you know, maybe more than you might normally, just to make sure that all of Ariana's movement was served. I mean, you know, that she, you know, that I know how to engineer a skirt so that it connects to her, you know, a dancer's body and then becomes an extension of the body. But it's on, you know, the communicating, you know, having Ariana communicate clearly what her needs are so that I can help to serve that. So once we get to set, we don't have a problem and you know, everybody is as happy as possible. So there was a lot of very you know, judicious, you know, careful engineering that went into making it so that, you know, Ariana could do all the moves that she needed to do.
And we did achieve it. That was the cool thing. And like true collaboration ends with a beautiful product.
Yeah.
Right.
Worth it.
And of course, as you both just said, the movement, you know, that is so. I mean, you can't do that sequence without this beautiful choreography.
Right.
Was the yellow with the red lacing underneath? Was that sort of a brainstorm from the beginning, or did it change over the different?
No.
It was. I mean, that came out of, you know, I presented to Stephen 3 choices, you know, three different directions of color. That, you know, going into it, I knew that you know, everyone coming to see West Side Story potentially had seen the original film or a revival of the Broadway musical, maybe even the original Broadway musical. But you know, there is a great love for the purple dress that Rita Moreno wears in the original film. And my task was to create a design that would hold that same kind of energy and that would live in the same way in people's minds on Ariana DeBose as Anita. And, you know, and be that iconic vision that, you know, people had carried for Rita. Now it's changed. And, you know, it's become the red dress the yellow dress with the red petticoat. And it's also, you know, working to tell the story, where we are, where Anita is in the day. And, you know, the red being, you know, her life force and energy, as well as the yellow serving to, you know, we always can find Anita within the community. Mm-hmm. She is the center, you know, and a metaphor for the sun, really, for me, you know, that everything is swirling around Anita. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Anita and Bernardo's love relationship as well, as that opens up.
Mm.
I love that.
It's just, I love it too. Ariana, before we finish, I wanted to ask about the arc of the role, the tone, the variety of tone. I mean, it's so buoyant, it's so, as Paul just said, bright and vibrant. But this is a very profound part as the film goes on, especially in the last half hour or so. Mm-hmm. Did you find that it was as complex to access where you needed to go emotionally for the still scenes as the choreography was in a way.
No, I didn't. I mean, the long and the short of that is no. For me, it was already there on the page. But when I say that, I don't mean stage directions were given to me. Tony Kushner said, don't move. I don't mean that. I just mean when I read this adaptation, it was very clear to me where this character needed to go. And it was very clear in my mind how I could utilize my skill set. It's so rare that you get a role like this that allows you to use the full scale, breadth, range of your talents. And this really hits parts of everything that I have to offer. She gets comedic moments. She gets that heavy back half, as we like to say. But I feel like that specifically, her second act, it is absolutely rooted in truth. In the same way that America is. Yes, it's a musicalized number, but it is rooted in truth. But that second half is rooted in grief. She's going through the 7 stages of grief in less than 5 hours.
Yeah.
So that's where I took her. And I just felt like at the end of the day, this is still a movie. This is still a play, whether it's a musical or not. So it's my job to bring her, keep her feet on the ground so that she can tell the truth. And I really feel like the piece is served by that. It keeps folks engaged. And I think that's why folks who are not normally musical people drawn to the movie musical genre stay with West Side Story, because not just my performances of my colleagues, Mike Feist, Rachel, Ansel, all
Rita.
of us, David, Rita, like it's
Yeah.
rooted in true life experience and the reality is that when we were making this movie, there was a lot going on in the world, very much like there's a lot going on in the world now. Kids were being thrown in cages at the border, when we were making this movie. So it was impossible not to feel the full weight of these deeper moments as a result of both our real-time lived experience and a result of what was really going on in 1957 in the text.
I began by congratulating you on your Oscar nominations, and I'm wishing you both the best of luck in a couple of weeks. But I wanted to finish actually by saying that when this is all done with, all the nominations and all this beautiful storm that we're all in. Ariana, I think you've said what's so touching to you is that young people for years are going to see themselves in this film. Do you want to maybe just expand on that a little bit and about you specifically and how special it is to be a part of something like that?
No, I think as an actor and as a human, right, we all want to contribute in a way that allows us, our legacy to be a positive one. If you are someone who thinks about legacy, this text has a large legacy as it is, and to be a part of something, to breathe new life into it for a new generation it's a remarkable opportunity to have been given. As a openly queer woman of color, as an Afro-Latina, that's me as a human, and then there's me as an artist. And both of those identities are wrapped up in this work in one way or another. And so that's what I mean when I say young people can see themselves in this work, whether it's the young artist who wants to work on Broadway or work in the movies, or the young queer person who simply sees, oh my gosh, she was able to succeed and her dream was able to come true. That means I have possibility. Both of those things are important. They can see themselves in Paul's work. Like it's so, that's what makes this so moving. So many people from lots of different walks of life were a part of making it a reality. And this work will live on. That's why movie making, we say, is for the legacy. It never dies. And that's exciting. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And, I think, I would second or third or fourth that any way I can. a beautiful piece of art that that you've both, all three of you, have contributed to so wonderfully. So best of luck again, and congratulations just on all of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. This was great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us today. Be the first to know about upcoming Wrap screenings and get access to exclusive content and premium events by becoming a Wrap Pro member. Join now to take advantage of a free trial. And for all screening information, including past screenings you may have missed, please visit TheWrap.com and go to the events tab in the main navigating bar.